Hello beautiful people, welcome to Remi's Fashion. My name is Remi. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to draft an underbust corset. Let's get started. On the screen are the measurements that I'm going to be using. I've already drawn out my starting points, so I will draft out a basic pattern to make it a lot easier to understand and follow along. Since we're drafting an underbust corset, we do not need the upper part, but I'll draft it so that you can follow along easily. The first thing I'm going to do is, I have drawn out a starting point. I always like to have a starting point before starting any project. So this is my starting point for all my vertical measurements. So I'm going to rule another line here. This is going to be my starting point for all my horizontal measurements. I'm going to be measuring out my vertical measurements. Shoulder to my bust, shoulder to my underbust, and shoulder to my waist. So shoulder to my bust is 12 inches. 12 inches puts me here. I'll mark. Shoulder to my underbust is 16 inches. And I'm going to be using 19 inches for my waistline for this pattern. And then I'm going to connect all the points together. After drawing out my vertical measurements, I'm going to label them so that we're not confused. This is my shoulder line, this is my bust line, this is my underbust line, and this is my waistline. So the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to measure out my shoulder measurement. My shoulder is 18 inches. You divide it by 2. So whatever your shoulder measurement is, divide it by 2. So what you have, you plot it on your shoulder line. So mine is 9 inches. 18 divided by 2 is 9 inches. So I'm going to plot it here. This is 9 inches. I will mark. And then I'm going to go down by 1 inch, just like I always do. You know our shoulders are not straight. I'm going to put a dot there. And then I'm just going to measure a width for our neckline. This is just a guide. We're actually not going to use it. Then I'll connect from this point to this point like this, and then I'm going to measure my armhole line. So mine is 9 inches, so I'm going to measure down. 9 inches puts me here. I'm going to mark. I'll draw a straight line down to meet the 9 inches like this, and then I'll just draw the line outwards like this. Okay, this upper part is just a guide so that you understand exactly what we're doing. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to plot in my bust span measurement. And my bust span measurement is my nipple to nipple measurement. Whatever yours is, you divide it by 2. So I'm going to plot it on the bust line, under bust line, and then the waistline. So my nipple to nipple measurement, which is my bust span, is 4.5 inches. I'll measure and I'll mark. I'll just put a dot there. On the under bust line, I'll put 4.5 inches as well. And then on the waistline, 4.5 inches. And from this bust line, I'm going to go down by 0.75 inches. And that is 3/4, okay? And then I'll connect all the points together from this 3/4 all the way down to the waistline. So the next thing I'm going to do now is I want to create my dart. To draw out my dart, I'm going to measure 0.75 inch on both sides of the waistline. I will measure 0.75 inch on the right hand side and 0.75 inch on the left hand side. You measuring 0.75 inch on both sides of the waistline. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to connect it to the top. This is me drawing out the dart legs. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from the bust line to the under bust line. Whatever measurement you get is what you should plot in between your bust points. So mine is 4 inches. So I'm going to plot 4 inches on both sides of my bust point. 4 inches will put me here. And then on this side, 4 inches as well. For the underbust corset, all we need is this opening at the bottom. We do not need the bra cups, okay? After doing this, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my curve. I'm going to connect from this point to under the bust, and then from this point to under the bust. Like this. And then I'll do the same thing for the other side as well. So the next thing we're going to do now is to plot our circumference measurements. So I'm going to plot in my bust circumference measurement on here, and then my waist circumference measurement on my waistline. So my bust circumference measurement is 44 inches. And by the time I divide that by 4, it's going to give me 11 inches. So I'm going to measure 11 inches. 11 inches puts me here. I'll mark. And then I'm going to add 1 inch sewing allowance. That's 1 inch. 1 inch puts me here. And I'll mark. So I'll also plot in the circumference measurement on my waistline. So mine is 36 inches. By the time I divide that by 4, it's going to give me 9 inches. So I'm going to measure 9 inches. 9 inches on my waistline. 9 inches puts me here. My dart is 1.5 inches. I'll add it back here. And then I'll add 1 inch sewing allowance. And then I'll connect this point to this point. So this is our front underbust pattern. So the next thing I'm going to do is, before I cut out this pattern, I want to extend the lines for the back so that I will use the same measurements for the back. So for the back, I'm going to measure 1 inch zipper allowance. So in case you need to use a zipper on your corset, then you have it. So this is my 1 inch zipper allowance. So the next thing I'm going to do is to extend these lines for the back. So this is my shoulder line, this is my bust line, and this is my waistline. So I'll just measure my shoulder line and then I'll draw my slant and take it down. My shoulder line is 18 inches. So divided by 2 is 9 inches. So I'll mark, I'll just go down by 1 inch. I'll draw out the neck width, which is 3 inches. I'm just going to connect our slanted points to it. And then I'll draw the armhole line downwards. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to draw out my dart. So using my bust span measurement, I'm going to draw out my dart. So I'm going to draw it on the bust line and on the waistline. So my nipple to nipple measurement, which is my bust span, is 4.5 inches. So I'm going to measure 4.5 inches and that puts me here. I'm going to draw that. And then on my waistline as well, I'm going to measure 4.5 inches and that puts me here. So I'm just going to draw a straight line to connect these points together and then I'll draw my dart out. We're not using this upper part, so there's no point putting anything on the chest line. So that's why I'm connecting from the bust line to the waistline. I'm going to draw out my dart. So I'm going to take 1/2 inch on each side of my waistline. And then I'm going to connect it to the top. Like this. So the next thing I'm going to do is plot in my circumference measurements. And my circumference for my bust is 11 inches. 44 by 4 is going to give me 11 inches. So I'm just going to mark. 11 inches is going to put me here. And I'm going to add 1 inch sewing allowance. Circumference for my waistline after divided by 4 is 9 inches. So I'm just going to measure 9 inches. I'll mark it here. And then I'm going to add back the 1 inch dart allowance that I took. 1 inch. And then I'm going to add another 1 inch for my sewing allowance. And then I'll connect from the bust line to the waistline. Like this. So if I want the back to have a kind of curved shape, I can decide to do that. But if you want to leave it like that, you can leave it like that. So from this zipper area, I can go down by maybe 1/2 inch. And then I can connect it to the side. Like this. And then to remove the bulge that we usually see at the back, I'm going to measure 1/2 inch on the waistline inwards on both sides. 1/2 inch on the waistline inwards like this. And then on the other side, the outer one as well, 1/2 inch inwards. And then from this 1/2 inch, I'm just going to connect it up. So this area is my new zipper allowance. So after drafting the front and the back, so this is what they look like. So the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut out these patterns. Don't forget to label your work. I'm going to put labels on mine. Before I cut out, I like to label. So I added on here, I added 1 inch sewing allowance. That applies to both sides, okay? And then this is my zipper allowance. So this is my side front. And this is my center front. So this is my CF. This is my center back. This is my CB. And this is my side back. And this is my SB, side back. I've done my labels. So the next thing I'm going to do is I will cut out. So when you even take up this pattern, you're not confused. You know which one is which. You know where is the side front. You know where is the center front. You know where is the side back. And you know where is the center back. So I'm going to add 2 inches hem allowance at the bottom of both my front and my back. And then I will add the remaining allowances on my fabric when I'm cutting out my pattern. So I'm going to cut out these patterns now. And then I'll show you what they look like. I'm going to start with the front. I'll now cut out the inside. So I'll cut out the back pieces now. the pattern pieces. These are my pattern pieces, both for the front and the back of my underbust corset. Hope this video tutorial was helpful. Please subscribe if you have not done so already. If you have any questions or suggestions, I'll be in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching. See you in my next tutorial. Take care and God bless.